Our sponsors for this episode are Shelter Insurance. Bradley Cook with Shelter Insurance is located at 227 West Broadway Street. That's 227 West Broadway Street in Newton, Kansas. You can give them a call at 316-283-4241. That's 316-283-4241. Bradley Cook, Bradley serving Newton, Kansas and surrounding areas. Anderson Retail Liquor, located at 1411 North Main in Newton. That's 1411 North Main in Newton. Open 7 days a week, Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m., Friday and Saturday, 9 to 11, and Sundays from 12 to 8. You can also give them a call at 316-283-4432. That's 316-283-4432. Stop in and check them out. Is your AC or heating system just not keeping up? Maybe it's not keeping your home or business as cold or hot as it once did. It could also be that all you're looking for is a reliable, trustworthy, and affordable technician to check on your system and do whatever maintenance necessary to ensure it's working as efficiently and effectively as possible. If so, give Air Quality Control a call at 316-285-3304. That's Air Quality Control, 316-285-3304 for all your air quality control needs. Well, hello, everybody, and hello, Andy and Chad. How was your guys' week this week?
It's been a good week. I survived. I survived the most brutal discussion that the city has every single year. So, I'm still awake and I'm still upright, and I was, yeah. So it's been a good week.
Yeah, Andy?
I was there yesterday for that discussion, and we had some other things going on, so I ended up staying for that discussion. And I always thought, why? Yeah, the earphones.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It does change the experience.
You don't have to have them on, Chad.
He doesn't want to hear my silky voice.
Yeah, I wanted to hear your real voice.
Yeah.
Just close your eyes and listen to me speak.
No, I always thought, how ridiculous do we have to revisit this every year? And this is why it's important to be engaged, right? Because something as simple as this, you would think, why do we, and Rich went ahead and just unfolded for me why they don't. It's because it's not a fluid time of the week, not a fluid day. So this is one of those things where you have to revisit it because of, is it on a Wednesday? Is it on a Friday? And there's other things, other machines and systems around. And I'm like, oh gosh, that's why they never set this in stone. Now I think they could set in stone the buying and selling part, which I think they're going to do that, which made sense. That was progress. So then it'll just be this debate of, the veterans that have PTSD from the shells going off, which I do have a friend that has an issue with that. But I have a lot of friends that don't have an issue with that were in the same war zones that he was in, but everybody handles those things differently, right?
Right.
And so, and I do understand those concerns and for the pets too and all that, but doggone, what a debate, right?
So it turned into a debate, huh?
It turned into a debate, and it became a 2-2 deal. I can see the whys, but I also understand, I'm probably pretty laid back about stuff like that. So I'm like, man, you just got to suck it up for a few days. I know it's hard on some people. Maybe there's places we can build for those people that are soundproof or something, maybe they can go. I don't know, but I want my family to hang out and have a good time, and fireworks are part of that for us. And then you have people that have nostalgia. Kathy really talked about her memories of the 4th of July, and it really, to me, became about that feeling for her and her memory of how important that day is because of how her family and her dad set that up. But that doesn't mean that there's not other days important for other people.
Yeah, I don't know if you go back to that. I watched probably the majority of that, and then the discussion, and then I got to be honest, I just turned it off because I couldn't handle the angry person anymore.
Well, the thing that
I tell you, I mean, this is on me. This is not on you guys.
Yeah.
But as I was sitting here listening to her rant and rave, I just thought to myself, wow, if somebody's not showing their true colors, I don't know. I don't know if you
Do you feel like it was angry, or you feel like she was debating?
She was
you
angry.
Felt anger?
Yeah, she's going to turn it into, I just felt passionate about it. But she was very disrespectful to people. She was disrespectful to anybody that didn't see it the way that she saw it, and she'll try to walk that back. But I just got to say, if you watch it, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Frame it in that context, that this person doesn't have the ability.
I'm going to say it. I kind of hesitate on this one, but I'm going to say it. So we went, Latinos Unidos went to do a recognition thing up there, right? And last night she talked about voices and a minority voice and how we need to take care of those people. But man, I didn't feel that when we were up there from her.
It's because it's white voices she's talking about, Andy.
Well, I don't want to even make it a white thing either.
Hey, I'm just saying that's what I get.
But what I want to make it is there is a minority.
It's like, oh, wow.
Boy, this conversation's
I'm just saying it. That's my perspective. Take it for what you want to take it for.
But let me unpack this though. As somebody that was up there with friends that are minority voices, right, in the community, wanting to fight for other minority voices to lift them up and to give opportunity.
Total hypocrite.
That's what a lot of us do, including myself. But I just want me to get better at seeing it in me. But I did hear it, and I will say that rubbed me a little bit because I was like, man, I was here about 3 months ago, and I walked out of here like, man, I was pushing some agenda that I'm not really pushing, but I understand where it comes from. I think we'll get into that later, Chad, in our conversation when we talk about local media and the big giant media versus the real media we have locally. And all the lack of resources we have to really write those big stories, and how were we going to now, with the crazy transitions in media right now, rally around and support our own local media and make a separation between the ABC, CNN, CNBC, NBC, all these people who have made the bed that they're trying to lie in right now, versus a newsroom like Chad's and some of our other local news outlets here that really need our support, right? And if we lose them, when you get to the world of Google, and Lance, I think you have some stuff to discuss on that later. It's a scary thing, but just know that we all do that at some level, though. So be careful to cast stones at other people. I just want to be straight up about this situation because I want people to tell me when I'm full of crap, because I don't get better and I don't see my blind spots all the time. But shout out to Kathy. Don't hate you. I understand why you make a lot of your. There's sometimes I would vote with you when other people don't. I've told her that to her face. That rubbed me interestingly wrong. I'd love to have a cup of coffee with her to share my perspective and hear hers and not demonize her, because I would stand strong on, she was saying everything we were up there to represent, but just for the firework people. And that's exactly why my heart was to be up there to support a community of people that I understand who are pickers and growers, and now we're helping farmers to have a lifestyle where you can have labor that you can afford, so we can keep our grocery prices decent. Yeah. And I grew up in that.
Well, it's the hypocrisy. So that's where I get a problem, is because I know exactly what you're talking about.
I do not want to be condescending.
Yeah.
And I hope nobody thought that I was trying to be condescending. I was just
I'm looking straight at you, Andy. I am not wanting to be condescending or a prick.
Deliver.
But my young Padawans, some of us have been through this conversation before.
Year after year after year after.
Okay?
That's why I call you.
I made a statement to myself walking into my office this morning, because the commission was not able to come to an agreement on when these things would be lit, when they will allow for them to be lit. Quite honestly, nobody cares, but that's the deal. And that's what they couldn't come to an agreement on. And as I was walking in, I'm like, you know what? I think I'm just going to write my story for 2 weeks from now, because I can do that. I've heard it is the same thing every single year. And then I was like, you really? No. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write my story about on the city commission. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to rewrite it. And when I rewrite it, I'm going to be stripping out all the quotes. It's not going to say Stinnett said, but I'm going to capture the sentiments of every person that spoke. And then a year from now, when it's time to write this story again, I'm going to pull that up and be like, okay, I can put his name here and his name here and his name here, and I'm done. That's how long this garbage has been going on.
30 plus years.
And this is strictly my analysis, but I believe what this community needs from its commission when it comes to this issue is really only two things: consistency They took a half a step towards that yesterday. And they need that commission to give some common sense and use some common sense, which they have never done.
Well, that's because
that's all they need.
And
that's all that is needed.
And Chad, I'd say,
and we cannot seem to get to the point, and it was discussed. We cannot get to a point where that commission can provide us with some consistency.
Well, I'll tell you this, going back to, and I agree with you, I did see that there was discussion about wanting to put something together to where people could count on it year after year, like we're going to, sell during this time and we're going to do this. Basically, put something forward so that way if, 4th of July falls on a Sunday, this is what we do. If it falls on a Wednesday, this is what we do. Just be able to chart a course so people can know year after year what they're supposed to do.
At some point, this commission needs to come, this is me, needs to come to a collective decision. How many days are we going to allow people to shoot fireworks off? That's where that needs to start. How many days are we going to allow for that? I believe right now that if you were to poll each commissioner, if you would take them out of the room and ask them, how many days do you think is appropriate? I think that there would be one common answer. And I think we would get at least 3 that would say, I don't know, but I do know that 7 days is too much.
Can I say
you
something?
See what I'm saying?
I don't want to get too far in the weeds because we got a lot to cover. But I do have a real major question. Where was Melanie Watson? Because I've been to 3 different city commission meetings, and I don't see her at any of the 3 I've been to. So I don't know if she's still there or if she doesn't.
No, she's still there.
Okay, so she does come.
There are meetings that she can't make it to.
Okay.
And yesterday happened to be one of those.
Okay, so she's at the majority. Because I must have been just me. Because I've been through a few of them and I hadn't seen her. And I'm going, dude, did she just not? Is she gone? Like, what's going on? Okay, all right.
And you know firsthand how it sucks to have an even number of people on a board.
Oh, dude, when you have a discussion like that, I would have rather her be there and make a decision and then move either which way. You're done.
Exactly.
The team moves on. But anyways.
Yeah. So, but that's she's still on the commission. It's just there's meetings that she can't make, and yesterday was one of them.
Right on.
And so that's why we're going to have to take this up again.
Right.
But my point is, why we can't come to some kind of a consensus that we know, for example, I mean, we now know, because they're going to bring an ordinance back, that every year we're going to allow for sales from the 27th through the 4th. We know that. I would love to see an ordinance or something created that says every year we're going to allow for 4 days. And the commission has the flexibility to pick those 4 days. Why can't we do this? Why can't we do this?
Well, if we did that, Chad, then we wouldn't be able to use it for our own political purposes and to browbeat everybody into their whole thing. Because that's what it is. It's the same. It's the same. I tell you. I'll say this. I know I was a little bit harsh there in the beginning, but if anybody's watched, the Newton City Commission very closely over many years now, I will say that it is no news to me the way one commissioner decides to treat people who she opposes or doesn't agree with their type of thinking. Up into throwing out accusations where a person had to say and clarify on 3 different occasions, that's not what I'm saying. You're throwing that jacket on me. You're saying that I am this way or that I don't care about X, Y, or Z. It's like this weird little manipulative, sneaky little way to use power of authority to try to manipulate the conversation. It's called speaking from a position of authority and believing that means that for some reason or another, you're the way you think trumps the way everybody else thinks. So, okay, because we got to get into this.
Move.
Besides local news, we want to talk about, actually for local news, I want to have some things covered. I thought I'd do things a little different because there's some issues what we want to cover on local news. Is paint the doors red, I call it, but it's painting doors around town. Newton Mural Art and Grain Elevator Project. Donkey Ball, what is it and why? We've already covered Boom Bang Pop, city fireworks discussion and controversy, so we can mark that one off the list. How about that water bill? City of Newton to raise rates. USD 373 releases statement and why they did it. Kansas House will not entertain Senate bill that would have put a 3% yearly cap on property valuation increase. Trump, and more Trump. Hysteria, action, dictator in chief. Should we be afraid? And drones turn out to be nothing. Fear, fear, fear. Will our government save us?
Let's move through it.
Okay, but before we get there, I've got some things I want to say.
We got more?
Yeah, okay, so
I got a timer running, man.
Okay, I'm going to hurry through this real quick, so forgive me, but there's some things coming up that I hope that our community chooses to support. Peace Connections, benefiting Harvey County Circle of Hope, will have its 8th annual soup, supper, and dessert auction. It's Thursday, February 20th, 2025. Newton Nazarene Church, 1000 North Main Street, Newton, Kansas. 5:30 p.m. is the soup supper, and it's by donation. And then from 6:15 to 7:15 p.m. there's a dessert auction. For more information, go to peaceconnections.org. I would say it's very important to support our local nonprofits, which leads me to Prairie View. The clock is ticking. Have you got your gala ticket yet? Don't wait. Grab yours today and join us for a night of glamour, excitement, and celebration. Wild Prairie Event Center, 1610 East 3rd Street, March 8th. Doors open at 5:15. They're having a live auction and gala. Music performances by the WSU Jazz Quartet. Entertainment is by Moody McCarthy. And you can also do a 50-50 raffle. So that's coming up here soon. It's another way to support local. And then Kairos Ministries. Kairos Outside Ministries will have a soup, dinner, and dessert auction on February 22nd at from 6 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. It's at Newton Christian Church. 100% of the proceeds will be given to the local Kairos Outside Ministry. The ministry supports the female loved ones of those impacted through incarceration. Finally, Newton Car Show. It's a little bit down the road, but coming up on May 3rd, the Newton will have their car show, affectionately called the Newton Car Show. CCRT, also a Community Chaplain Response Team, is the one that are hosting it. Registration forms are available. If you need one, go to Newton Car Show at yahoo.com and send an email. They'll send you a flyer that you can fill out. I'm a part of that, and there's a lot of really, really cool stuff coming up. They're even going to have a top fuel drag car. So, with all that being said, and I know that was a mouthful, everybody, and I apologize, what do you guys want to tackle first?
What do we want to tackle first?
Let's get the letter, because that might take some time. Okay. I don't know how far we can get with all that.
Okay. Chad, throw it out there, man. USD 373 sends out an email.
It went to all parents.
Okay.
And it was a statement that pretty much mirrored a statement that was put out by the Kansas Department of Education about a week ago.
So it was a blanket statement.
Yep. And it basically told parents, in not so many words, that ICE isn't going to be coming into the school without a warrant. My job is not to make assumptions. My job is to ask the question of why you send this letter out. Mm-hmm. And that's what I asserted on social media yesterday, because I felt like there were people that were trying to take some shots at me. And the bottom line is, my job is to ask the question, why'd you send this? Okay. Quite honestly, every parent's job is to read that letter and go, well, why in the world did they send this to me? But I am a parent, and that's why I know it was sent to all parents and what time it was sent and all of that, because I received it at multiple email addresses because I'm registered as a parent with multiple emails. The reason why it was sent is that our school district has been hearing the concern, or you could use the word panic.
Mm-hmm. It's panic and
from both parents and students. And some of those students are really young. That's why the letter got sent.
So really, when I read it, I felt, with taking no political ideology and anything that's going on outside of just looking at the email, reading the email, not projecting anything of my own personal biases onto the email, and said, okay, so what they're doing is they're sending out an email to let people know that whatever's going on here at a national level or even a state level at times, or all the stuff that we're seeing on the national media, that, you don't have to be worried about this. Your kids can keep coming to school. They're not going to come to school and somebody's going to pick them up and deport them right then and there. It's
bingo.
I mean,
so if a member of law enforcement is escorting your child out of school, you're going to find out about it. And the way that works in our school system, this is what was not in the letter. If a child is being arrested for something, and by the way, it does happen. Guys over in Chisholm, would you quit with the vapes? I mean, seriously.
It's not funny.
It's not funny, but
yeah, and they hide it. So what I've heard is they can hide
nuts.
it. And then here's something else I heard real quick, which blows my mind. There has been parents that come to the school saying, "Hey, can I get my vape back?"
Oh God.
yeah,
And they give it. They have to give. I mean, it's their stuff.
yeah,
And then the kid will end up with it again.
yeah. By
Whoa.
the way, Mom and Dad, you're not doing your kid any favor with that.
That happens. Just
But,
FYI,
well,
in our community.
I know it does.
Dang it, man.
And if it gets to the point, I'm just being straight. If it gets to the point that your kid is being arrested for something, possession of, and if there's THC in that vape, they're gonna get arrested. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
So if they're getting arrested, what's gonna happen is they're gonna the school resource officer, 99 out of 100 times, is gonna call the parent first. Because the school resource officer really doesn't want to take the kid over to the intake room.
Absolutely.
He wants to have the parent deal with this.
Yes.
Okay. And there's a process called notice to appear that he really wants to have happen. So, if he's calling you, ask about that. But he's calling you. This is happening. And you know why it's happening. All right?
Yeah, nobody's coming and picking up your
And
kid and taking.
if
your
you don't
kid.
answer your phone, exactly.
I mean, come on now.
I'm gonna go over a little
to put everybody at ease here. If the kid ends up in the intake room, there's no citizenship questions down there.
So I want to read something real quick. It's about statements off of your Facebook page. And I jumped in because I saw this. This is what I saw as soon as I opened it up, because I saw our logo on it. And I was like, what is that? And then I saw it attached to you. And so I went and this is the first message I saw. There was a statement released from the Kansas Department of Education, similarly. And then it says, obviously, you don't know much about the law. All ICE has to do is walk up to the door with the warrant. And then in little parentheses, it says, which they have. And they have to be let in, okay? And then people start talking back and forth, and I caught it, and I just said, can you tell me where they have done this in a school, ? I have been paying attention and have not found one credible incident. The government actually put out a statement, and I can share that with you, that said they are not targeting schools. If the statement that was released by the administration was false, I would like to know. Thank you for any assistance you can provide. Then it goes to this person who put in those parentheses that it has happened. That's a thing they haven't done it yet. That's a thing they haven't done it yet, ! That's why I don't understand why people are flipping out about it. But they still put that thing in parentheses, but then they're saying they don't understand why people are flipping out about it.
Like,
but I do know that that's the procedure for doing it. And I said, okay, the which they have comment drew my attention. Sorry, I forgot a few words. I meant which they have done in the past. Okay, this is me. But what's the context in the past? Have they done this? What's the context to round kids up? Question mark. They then respond, a few years ago, they did it in California. And then in those little parenthesis things. My aunt was a sheriff in Riverside. When both parents were illegal, they got the kids put in CPS since they would be no one there to care for them. I said, oh, so this is under the Biden administration, period. That's a tough deal. I wonder why mom and dad were apprehended. Rough deal, it sounds like. And he says, not sure. All was able to tell me was that the father had convicted a crime, and when he was apprehended, they discovered the mother was illegal. And I just stopped there.
Okay, but who? Okay, now I got a question. Okay. Well, we're here.
But I just stopped there. But you see where that led to? Do you see the confusion?
And I'm looking at it next
Yes.
level. Next level is this. If Lance decides he's going to go out and he's going to commit a crime, okay? And then, it's found out that your significant other, the mother of the child in our situation, is privy in part to that, so we're going to go ahead and arrest this person too. If both parents are arrested, what happens to the child?
They have to pick up the
They
kids
become
and
a
put them in custody.
They become
Come on.
They become a child in need of care.
But the context,
They are
though.
placed in
Yeah.
police protective custody.
Yes.
If there is no grandparent or no other relative around, they are then placed at Wichita Children's Home. That's what happens.
And you are
to
the guy who
kid.
does intakes on stuff like that
Yes.
at some level.
I did one last week.
So here you go, though.
I had 3 kids
That
last
happened
week.
3 years ago in California, one of the most probably, or one of the most liberal states in the country, under another administration. And that is a kid's getting taken for that reason. And it sucks. But the big orange guy didn't have nothing to do with that one. But that was the context being used in this situation.
Right.
And it just doesn't all add up. And there's so much of that going on right now where people aren't taking a step back to look at what's the cause and effect. Because there's a cause and there's an effect. And for those people that don't know, President Obama deported more people than any other president. That's still a fact today. And I had a friend get upset with me and got real personal and said they were very disappointed in me because I'm not standing up for our people. And I'm very in love with my culture and where I come from, my family's heritage. But at the end of the day, they said Trump was already president once. Didn't you see what he was going to do? But if you look at his actions, and I got a quote from ABC and what he said, he didn't even deport as many as Obama. He locked down the border because of the fentanyl crisis. And his statement was, if you're here illegally with crimes, I'm coming after you. The people who are here that haven't committed a crime, that have been here for, I'm not worried. He's not worried about them. You don't want to get caught up in the shuffle, which is what's happening now.
Yeah.
But he wasn't trying to push them out. And now, because the cause of the last 4 years has changed the climate on this thing. And the average American is pissed off. And when they start saying that Texas was playing politics with people, shipping them to cities that were saying this should be the way it is, the impact of what that had made the reality real for a lot of people who were saying one thing but not willing to do the things they said they would do when it ended up on their doorstep. That is and the average American saw that and goes, oh. And trust me, a lot of people went to that booth projecting on one thing and voted another.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, this is the reality we're living in, and we can't get caught up with hating our neighbors and our friends over a cause and effect. There is now actions being taken that are very uncomfortable that a lot of people don't like, but the cause did not start yesterday.
Okay,
Just
so
want to be clear about
this
that.
conversation has changed. So we're going to cover the last first, obviously, which was under the headline "Trump, and more Trump hysteria, action, dictator in chief. Should we be afraid?"
Some people should be.
You know, this context that we're talking about. Obviously, when it comes to immigration and what's happening with ICE and everything right now, I'm seeing a lot of hysteria and fear. Although I don't like some of the things that are going on right now with the Trump administration, I've got to say,
We can't be friends.
Yeah. That's right. I'm a.
Let me just make sure the thing you don't like is the thing I
I'm
don't
just
like.
gonna
and then
leave
we'll
right
see.
We are political talking heads. We are all for, no, that's not how this works. But okay, so
I almost got scared.
he might say, blow it up, guys.
We're gonna get tanked on that algorithm.
Yeah. Oh, I tell you. Okay, so and you will too. If those of you that don't understand how social media works, yes.
So allegedly, yeah. Who can prove anything, right? Speaking of, we could go on. Okay, but I feel, and I say feel because I'm waiting for this to pan out, but that although people, rightly so, some are frustrated because there are things that this administration is doing that they don't necessarily like, or but I'm not up in arms and hysteria about what Trump is doing any more than what I was about the Biden regime or the Trump regime or the Obama regime. Or it's like fear, hysteria. I believe that there is a purpose for this. I think that if they, the infamous they, if we're constantly stuck in a cycle of fear and panic and fear and panic and fear and panic, then all we will do is look to the government to solve our issues for us, which equals more government, less individual rights and freedoms. Oof. But do we have, I guess I'll frame the question this way. Chad, do you believe that people have an unwarranted and irrational fear which is producing hysteria over some of the things that we're seeing the Trump administration do?
I think there are pockets of it. I mean, this is one of them. I mean, the dude did create orders that say that you guys can now go into schools and you can go into churches.
But that has existed, right? Yeah. That has existed.
No.
I was watching a press conference to clarify.
This is a first, right? This is a first.
So that was created recently.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And the response from the Trump administration in the most recent press conference that they did, the very first one, when that question was asked, if they're not going to do this, why would this be in an executive order? And their response was, if you have a criminal that's committed a crime, let's say a drug dealer, a murderer, a rapist, just you committed a crime, okay? Well, for whatever the reason, are we not going to go in and get the average Joe from church if we find out that he's at church?
And that's
or that
where he's
we're
at
not
at the
going
time
to execute it. So basically, the wording was such to make sure that they would be well within their ability to go in.
In other words, we're not playing. And if you try to hide them, we're going to come get them.
Yes.
That's the signal.
The signal was, we're no longer going to allow for you to have a place of sanctuary.
And I would agree with that.
Okay,
if you're
that's what it is.
One of the people they're after, they're coming to get you.
And if you didn't think that was going to seriously anger,
that's fair.
School principals,
or
preachers,
superintendents,
preachers,
Catholic
superintendents,
all these individuals that are but they're being complicit in this.
How are they not?
That's a whole other side of the conversation.
And you can make that statement, Lance. Okay? I come from a peace church.
Understood.
We were jailed because we said we weren't going to fight.
Understood.
We were jailed because we said we serve a higher power than you.
Wow. And I've even heard, people tied into the Underground Railroad.
Those people are going to be angry. All right? My church brought refugees into this country within the last year. Of course, we're going to get upset.
I love the heart of that, but we're talking about kids here. So, and I don't want to, because I love your culture because of that.
Yes, we are talking about
and you
kids.
guys have changed my life, the Mennonites, and I really appreciate the nuggets that I got to borrow from your community, and I'm grateful for that because it changed my life. So, to the Mennonites out there, I love you guys. I don't agree with everything y'all do, but the way you guys choose to live from your ancestors changed my life, and I mean that. But let's talk about kids. Let's really talk about what's really happening. How many kids are missing right now from the last administration?
Well, they've discovered about 600 so far, I think. They've been able to...
Then 600 out of how many?
It's embarrassing.
It's over 350,000. Do you know what the media was ripping Trump over in 2016? You could look it up on YouTube. Do you know the number? Like the number from that situation you heard about California? And you know that whole situation? Do you know what that number was?
Probably in the hundreds.
1,500. Think about this, people. People, think about this. Over 350,000 people, kids, unaccounted for. They're running them down. I think they found a group of, I think they said, it's a big number, 6,000 or something like that.
Okay.
But when Trump was president, they were beating him up over 1,500, which is not nothing. And we should be pissed. But tell me if you put that on a scale, there's not something bigger going on here that's an issue. Just critically think about that. Please critically think about that. What the heck is going on?
Well, you know what happens, and I'll go back to this. I mean, I didn't want to rest here on this, but you know, fear clouds rational thinking and judgment. So if somebody is afraid and they're hysterical, then they don't have the ability to think critically. They just don't. It's a psychological fact. If you are in constant state of fear, if you are constant hysterical, anxious, all of these things, then you don't have the ability to utilize your critical thinking skills, or what I would call rational thinking. So it doesn't. We're talking facts. We're talking logic. Logic goes out the window when people are petrified and afraid of whatever it is that's happening, this impending doom that's going to happen. And I don't want to move on to anything, but I don't know if you all knew this or not, but the drones were nothing, folks.
Right.
The drones were absolutely,
at least as far as we know.
Yeah, well, they're saying you know, the Trump administration released something that said of all of these reported sightings of all these drones, it turns out that the mass majority of them had FAA approval. Okay, so that means they already knew they were there. The Biden administration already knew that they had this.
They had to get approval to lift them.
Yeah, and then there was some hobbyists that were flying around, and then it made it worse because people started flying their drones around so they could see these other drones flying around. And here's the thing: as long as you're afraid, as long as you're wondering what is going on, and oh my goodness, and there's nothing I can do about it, and there's this impending doom, and then we don't know what it is, and we're all afraid, and we're all shaking in our boots, then what do we want to happen? We want the government to come in and solve our problems for us.
Yes, we do.
Every single time. COVID was another one, right? All this, you know, you had people on the right side and the left side. The right side extremists thought that anything they did was taking away your rights and your ability to be a law-abiding free citizen, and the left side extremists wanted to, you know, put down everybody that wasn't willing to wear a mask and be able to be demanded that you take some vaccination. And you know, it's like in the moment, as long as we can keep these people, you know, fighting and afraid, then the end result is that, well, we can just take a little bit more, just another inch of your freedom.
And that energy is coming from both extreme sides. I agree with that. How do we become the glue in the middle? And then the bigger picture here is, how do we respect local media that is owned by local smaller groups who want to keep alive real stories that aren't being pushed into that big machine, is what I call it. And I'm going to use this issue with the education system and the people's fear, because it is, when you do the union and all those things, when you look at where their dues go and the money goes, it's mostly to political campaigns for the Democratic Party, right? Those numbers are out there. They're public. You can find it. And it is a very heavily left-leaning system. It is what it is. And a lot of people will look at you in the face and say, no, it's not. And that's when you lose credibility with the average guy like me going, come on, man, like for real? Like, and then when they put out a statement of anything that's almost political, like this situation with the kids in the school, that's a political issue, they're going to say, well, it came from an education department that's left-leaning, so they're going to put that in the hamburger machine and create the hysteria and be a part of it. Yeah. Not realizing that we do have families that needed to hear that. We do have families that needed to hear that. Whatever your political views are, there comes a balance. And I understand the mindset of why people are upset about it. But you also, like Kathy said last night, have to understand there's a minority group in this community that is watching stations that are like CNN and MSNBC telling them stuff to feed the beast for marketing dollars. And when it's a Spanish only station like Telemundo, if you watch it and you understand what they're saying, it's basically like Maddow and what she has become, which is for the average American a laughing stock of a commentator that people think she's a news reporter. She is not a Chad. She is not a local media person. We've got to understand how to separate apples and oranges and take care of each other.
Yeah.
But do understand that not everything is done for political reasons. There's people that needed to see that communication.
Well,
I'm
yes.
sorry. And people know I'm a middle right person. I'm more conservative than a lot of my friends. And I have a lot of conservative friends. But at the end of the day, we have to have reason. And I understand most of us know the machine is there. We're not blind to it. But some of my far right friends are just as part of the machine as the far left is.
Oh yeah,
and it's not okay.
Yeah, and I told Chad I wanted to make a joke.
Let me throw something out there. Something that happened yesterday. I think it's really hilarious. I don't know which television news station it was that showed up for the city commission last night,
Oh, yeah.
but they were there.
Yeah, I saw it.
Oh, now I understand the grandstanding. Okay. Now I
And-
understand why we were so.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they were there.
They were doing their job to
And-
get sound bites.
And, you know, here's some perspective for you folks. I need you to hear this. Right? This dude had no freaking clue what was going on. To the point that it was me saying, okay, you need to go up this 3 sets of stairs. Sorry you're carrying all this stuff. And then when we get to the top of the stairs, we're going to go through this hallway. Oh, screw it. I'll just take you there. He didn't even know where the blasted room was.
Well, if there's some excitement, there's some
And
anger to be stirred
as
up.
we're walking up there, and I'm like, so you guys decided to show up for the biggest, the hottest discussion, that we have every year, and it's fireworks. And he goes, yeah, and I also want to talk about the water rates. And I went, oh, the utility rate, because the city posted about the utility rate. That's not on the agenda tonight. And his face just drops. And he's like, so what's the history here? What's going on? And so I start talking and giving him background on the water discussion.
No idea.
He had no clue. He starts setting up his camera because he wants to film me. And I looked at him and I said, you can only film me if you credit the Newton Kansan because I'm the editor of the local newspaper. And his face falls again because here he's got this great source that he can't use.
Yeah.
You should have just still called Lance. Okay. There's this guy that did a 5-part
Andy,
series.
come back up the steps.
Right, 5-part
So,
series in this. Where was that?
Like
person
I said,
at?
I have no idea which station he was from. This is the first time I've met the dude. Nice guy.
Yeah.
Just being honest.
Yeah,
nice
he's a
guy.
nice
Doing his job.
I met him.
But he's just like, so if you happen to catch whatever it was that he put together for last night or this morning, he is a part of the problem when it comes to support of your local media. Because those people who sit down and watch that and think they're getting what they need, you're not.
There's no hook.
And he didn't care and he didn't know because he hadn't been watching that the school district had put that letter out yesterday. He didn't care and he didn't know that we've been having this fireworks discussion for frickin' 30 years. And he obviously didn't know that the water rate thing
It was a utility bill.
was and that was a decision that was made 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just like, I feel for the guy.
Yeah.
It's not his fault. He just didn't know.
Well, and speaking of the,
So he's parachuting in.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and then how do you frame it too? Because the headline's going to be Newton, Kansas city government raises water rates.
2 years ago.
Okay. Well, no, but this is the thing.
I've got a story that's
break
going
it
to explain all
down.
of
Okay,
that,
now break
but-
it down. I just want to break this down. Okay. Now, whatever side of the aisle you're on, if you're at your base user rate, which is 300 cubic feet, well, this is what we're just gonna say 300 cubic feet because this is what the city put out.
Dude, can you
You're
do me
going
one
from-
quick favor?
What's up?
Please give a quick synopsis of the background of how much time you've put in on this piece in particular? People need to know the hours you've spent.
I bet you I've
Ballpark
probably
it.
done 120 hours, actual hours.
Unpacking
this.
Yes.
And
research.
interviews.
And you know what?
And
That's
interviews.
just in interviews and everything else.
Pros and
published,
cons.
Yeah, both sides of the people.
We published an excellent column series by you about this.
Just breaking it
Okay.
down for people
Yeah.
and understanding
It was
why
like
we
2
are
years
there.
ago
and
that
it
we
was
did it.
factual. In the end, I did a conclusion which said that we're kind of in a spot, right? And there is an argument to be made on the other side too that gets into some detail about general fund and money that they receive through water and why and nonprofits. And I mean, it's a deep issue. But whenever I look at something, I say, well, how much does this cost me per day? Okay. How much is this really costing me per day? And we talk about, the water rates are going up again. And I understand the frustration on people once again, because it goes back to this cyclical thing of, everything's being costing more. I'm paying more everywhere I go, at the grocery store, at the pump, everywhere I go, I'm paying more money for everything that I'm consuming that I have to have 9 times out of 10. And now the city wants to raise something on me. Okay. So the end result that I'm looking at here is what the city put out. It said that the person who uses 300 cubic feet of water, it was 96.62 in 2024. In 2025, it's going to be 102.18. If you break that down, that's 16 cents per day. You are paying 16 cents per day more than what you're paying to flush your toilet, have consistent water coming into your house so you can take a shower, take care of yourself, sewer goes where it needs to go, et cetera, et cetera. And we go back to the same issue is we have to grow.
And let's hope that, some of these taxes that hopefully it'll, the people that get a fixed income from the government that won't be taxed and all these little things that are happening right now makes up the difference. Let's just hope that that's all really followed through with, because we don't know yet, but let's hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line, the decision about what your rate was going to be come February 1st of this year was made 2 years ago.
Yep. It shocks me sometimes.
Don't be surprised when the water rate is going up.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
it has
because
to. I mean, there is no. When you get in
Yes.
government,
Everything
it's inevitable.
goes up.
And the cause and effect,
Everything
they
goes
didn't raise
up.
anything for a long while, holding the line and cutting
Yeah.
and doing all, and then all of a sudden
7 years.
Yeah, 7 years of nothing, and then when you have to catch up, it has to come from somewhere. And apparently, those 7 years they were cutting and readjusting and doing a bunch of other things,
So they can't anymore.
and they can't. And it became okay. Now we have to do this, and there's a cause and effect. So there's either you do it a little bit over time, like Kathy had talked about, or you fight your butt off to restructure everything and then do it big when you have to do it, and that's what happened. So, anyways, that's kind of
What angered me 2 years ago is that we lost our 38%. People think I'm crazy, but we were paying.
bit crazy.
I am.
You're a little bit crazy.
We were paying a 38% surcharge, and that surcharge was being used to pay the bonds on the water plant off early. We were going to save millions. And at one time, I did the math for my own family, what that really meant. Okay? And what it meant was saving about $4,000 of my money.
yeah.
And the reason I did that is people were all up in arms because they wanted the city to give a discount. They didn't think we should pay that fee, and that they thought if they didn't pay that fee, then the city water rate could be reduced and save us a little money every month. And I did the math. What they were talking about would have saved my family about $50.
A month,
No.
a year.
No.
Tell me, Chad.
$50, period. Over time. I'm talking the 20-year length of the loan. It would have saved me $50. Paying that fee and paying that off early was going to save me $4,000. Which is the better investment? We lost that when we had, because we had kept that rate flat for 7 years. And then again, folks, it's be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, but
The
then
result is not only did we have to have a massive increase in the water rate, and your utility bill went up dramatically, maybe because math can do some very funny things when you're talking about a bill that has multiple things on it.
Yeah, it's not just the water bill.
So
it's affectionately known as the water bill.
Right. There's a lot of people who didn't really notice any increase at all. Okay. Now here we are. We've got to increase that rate again. And we're not going to pay that bond off early. So quite honestly, there's a lot of families who lost a ton of money.
Under that.
But again, this is a decision that was made 2 years ago. And I guarantee, because it's playing out on Facebook right now, at some point, I'm going to get that phone call. Why aren't you reporting on this?
Send them the link from 2 years ago.
I actually, you know what I did?
Have them subscribe. Paywall only.
Yeah. This is what I did. This is what I've done.
Subscribe.
Okay. I've got a story that is 95% finished to go on Saturday to let everybody know, oh, by the way, as of today, your water rate's going up. And the why, because, that's my job. My job is to ask the why. And by the way, more than half of that article that I have prepared, it's just rerunning what I wrote 2 years ago.
Well, I tell you,
I want to be straight
as
here.
far as our community goes,
think about the lack of manpower our local journalism has to do the big stories we really want them to do, because we're not subscribing. Just really think about that, people. We are in charge of that opportunity in our community. And if we don't support our local journalists, we're going to have major issues in the future. If you think the machine is bad now, if we kill our local journalists, we're all in trouble.
Yeah.
Because those people that are beating you up because they think you're part of the big machine that don't know how to separate it. And there are times your personal bend that's going to happen. There are times it's going to happen. We're all people. But the big picture is you're not connected to a company who bought a company who bought a company who's connected to CNN.
Correct.
Or CNBC, or these talking heads that do filter out to some other medias 30 minutes down the road that are a part of that machine when you put the tree together. And there is a difference between local journalism and the machine, and be careful who you're bastardizing, and go sit kneecap to kneecap. But if you're not subscribing, don't say you're not part of the problem.
And it's interesting that you're talking about this, because we just did an interview yesterday with Jeremy Golban, who is the CEO of Cherry Road Media, which is the parent company to the Kansan.
Yes.
And with Chad as well. Chad was on there, and it was a Zoom interview. And Jeremy is spot on, man. I just got to say, spot on, because
the statement he made that I love that fits so well with what he just said.
I was getting ready to say,
you know what it is, right?
Yes.
If the community would subscribe, we will have a Kansan forever. We all see and hear of all of the closures of these newspapers all across the United States. Most of the time, we never talk about what that really means for a community. But we do know what it means for a community. But here's a guy, Jeremy got into this business about 2 years ago.
Because he saw the big tech and these large media organizations taking over and portraying a message that was not a localized...
Filtering through propaganda from the big
Yes.
machine.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
And just real quick, if you could go over what happens, we do tests here. And so we could make assumptions by numbers that you have of topics that we talk about from the big machine, the big G machine that runs YouTube and all these other things. And they're all interconnected at some level. But there's marching orders that are given. And if you're not part of a private website, that still has some issues being buried, but you got to go search it out and subscribe. That's why there's a lot of content creators that are independent now that are putting all their content on their private websites. Lance, you know why we do what we do.
Well, absolutely.
Because the future, as we continue to unroll this, we've got to protect ourselves too from communications to our community. And Chad, you are the lightning bolt that decided to sit down with us to help us. So you see the bigger picture.
Yeah.
You see the 20-year game, and you want that guy to come out of college to have your job and be very successful and be able to take care of his family and be able to protect the community from itself in a lot of ways. Because when we get in our own tunnel and I want you to do things because I think it's right, and I become holier than thou to think that I have the master plan and you just need to trust me and shut up, that's dangerous for any of us to start following suit with that. And it's our responsibility to have hard conversations, keep the facts on the table, and love your neighbors. I mean, it's hard right now, but we can do it.
Yeah, and something I got to say about Chad here in the Kansan is you're not a pin for hire. The reason that I subscribe to the Kansan and I'm that's the paper that I choose to subscribe to here in my local community to get factual, what I would believe to be non-biased information, has a lot to do with the fact that you don't write stories that people want you to write based upon one slided view or the other slided view.
And if
Whoever's
people
gonna
think that's
throw
not
it on
right,
the phone.
send us information under here and tell us where it happened.
Yeah,
and let us talk
tell
about
us where
it.
it happened. I'm
Well,
here to-
you
I'm
know
here to
what?
Put it
say
out there,
is-
right?
I'm gonna put it out there right now, okay? And Rod, I'm sorry, you're the fall guy here. But Rod told me after that meeting last night, you need to write this, and he's right. That was something that needed to be written. But guess what? I also had to write about his inability to give something that was wanted.
So you're
Because it
writing on
wasn't-
both ends of the spectrum.
Exactly. That's my point. Okay? There were in that firework debate, there were multiple people culpable in the breakdown, because that's what we can call it. They were not able to get an agreement. There's multiple people that were involved in that. It wasn't all about one person. And I had to write it that way.
I do want to say something though. There was some candor. There was some push back and forth. There were people that were fighting with some internal thoughts at the time. I'm glad they waited actually, and they didn't just try to push something through. I will say though, as far as a debate up there, it wasn't ugly.
No, it was not.
And that is commendable.
No,
it was not ugly. One
Not
person
between
chose to make
commissioners.
statements outside.
That's what he's talking about. He's talking about between the commissioners.
When they were going back and forth, that was not ugly. And people did have strong feelings, but they were actually trying to bring the temperature down. There was a lot of experience at work there. And when you know the difference between leaders that have experience and are looking for real compromise and maybe negotiating at the same time, I saw a lot of those tools being used yesterday for those novice people that need to read some books about some of that stuff and how it happens, and even phraseology and wording and shaking your head yes when you're doing certain things to get an outcome. There was a lot of that happening, and I was like, this is a little bit of a masterclass for new people that aren't in the public eye. It was actually really good. So know that we do have good leaders. We're getting better, and not all the time we can make decisions that everybody likes. So just FYI. There was a lot of, because you go to the school board and that's not the case. Ooh, we're trying, baby.
I tell you. Okay, so we're gonna come. We didn't cover everything that was on the list. For my
I
last
just threw us
word.
under the bus. Sorry, sorry.
Hey,
You threw yourself.
it's called accountability. That's what it is.
I'm
What's there to
down.
hide if we all want to get better?
I'm down.
So I'll give you guys the chance to do your last word, and then I just want to cover a couple of these things. I'll just do this first. Just real quick, if you didn't get a chance, make sure and go watch the Newton City Commission meeting. You can listen to all about the fireworks and everything else, but if you don't want to do that, in the beginning of the meeting, the Newton Mural Art project in partnership with the Kansas Community Foundation, the North Newton specifically, are looking at doing a mural on the elevator. So
read the Kansan on Saturday about that.
Kansan on Saturday. Make sure and subscribe to the Kansan. Once again, it's $5 for a monthly subscription online. You get 12 papers. It's about $20 for a paper copy, and you'll also get online access.
And catch the link below.
Yeah, and catch the link below because we'll put it on there. We didn't talk about Donkey Ball. Maybe we'll save that off, but maybe Chad can talk about Donkey Ball. The Peace Connections is doing a program where they want to go around and work with people. They have grant money for painting doors in communities. That is in the Kansan from yesterday. So if you subscribe to the Kansan, you know that. Then let's see here. Just a quick statement. I know a lot of people talked about property tax on the next legislative update with Senator Stephen Owens and with Representative Avery Anderson. I'm going to ask this question. Why could it not go from the Senate to the House? The Senate passed a bill that would require an amendment to put a 3% yearly cap on property valuation increases. The House will not pick that up. So that's a dead issue. And then last but not least, it's time for you all to give your last words.
Okay, I'll go first. Thank you. I talked about it earlier, but you've got to at some point look at not what you want to think and not what the channels you're watching and the algorithms that you're clicking on are keeping you there for. But what is the cause and effect of everything happening right now? These aren't things that just happen overnight. And we have a broken system on a lot of levels. We have money going to places. I just saw $50 million going to like Pakistan for condoms that were leaving the door.
They stopped that.
And there's hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars that were getting pushed out at the last minute. And you ask yourself, why? That's why a lot of these things are happening that we don't all agree with. But it's also stupid to push out money, then God knows where it's going to end up and for what purposes when the machine is as corrupt as it is. And just know that your neighbor's not that. And locally, we need to take care of each other. We need to debate hard things, but stay together. And that's how we beat this long term. And for all my people that are not agreeing with some of my views, just know that I care about you. Your voice matters to me, but I'm going to do me. And at least you know I won't bullshit you. That's all I got to say.
Chad?
There's a reason that I chose to go to a donkey basketball game instead of a Board of Education meeting.
Although they're parallel in many ways.
So I honestly, I don't want to take any more phone calls that are questioning my decision-making process. There is only one of me to do all of these things. And donkey basketball is not a sport, so I am not going to assign a sports editor to that. And yeah, not to mention the Board of Education meeting was more like board, B-O-R-E-D of education meeting this particular week. So that's my final word. I enjoyed the kind of watching people make fools of themselves on the back of donkeys. So there you go.
All for a good cause.
Yeah, for a great cause.
All for a good cause. Okay, so my final word, I saw a quote that I thought was very interesting. It says, and remember this, folks, education isn't broken because of teachers. It's broken because we ask teachers to be counselors, social workers, parents, and miracle workers, while still demanding perfect test scores. Fix the system, not the people holding it together. Have a good week, everybody.